as we are as an incorporated society, as an industry, always paid our taxes. Why is there not some sort of form of compensation? I'd love for you to take that back to the Minister and get his thoughts on that. And further even to Sean's question, the government seems to love ring fencing things. Why can't people like Sean have his assets ring fenced at 31 July? So that then he is not using that to compensate for a contract which hasn't seen him for $20-something, where he might be dipping into his own savings to continue to support the business until that transition. Why can't that be ring fenced? It would be a very simple process. You give your assets and liabilities at the 31st July, that's ring fenced, and then if someone actually needs an MSD support after that, that doesn't get included as an asset.
No, I honestly can't answer that question because I am a bit too dumb.
No, you're too tough.
You're too tough.
Right? But it's I mean, I'm absolutely agree that, looking at ways that you can ensure that in fact, right, I know for sure the MSD people will say it, it's not that access to MSD support requires you to use all your assets, right? I mean, there is an asset level and it'll be different if you're still saving for your first home and things, you will be at a somewhat different asset level than, the big fellas in the industry. So, I can't give you the answer, but
why can't we have these answers when we're sitting in the middle of April? We're sitting where we are, so close to August. Why don't you have all these answers? Irrelevant whether you're set up on Friday or not.
Why don't I have all these answers? Because I don't know everything.
I'm not saying you know everything, I'm saying the importance as to the affecting of us.
Yeah.
A lot of these answers, they're a little bit too tough or out of your
No, well, and I would also say that I've assumed that you've been talking with GRNZ about these things.
That's not a GRNZ problem.
Yeah, well it is, because GRNZ, right? GRNZ actually is expected to assist with this transition, right? This is not...
After greyhounds are closed is not GRNZ's problem.
No, that's not, but at the moment...
That's what you're
you
telling
are
me.
You are still part of
Do you have some
GRNZ.
further questions? Because I see there's a few notes.
Sorry, there are a few notes. And rather than hold the microphone, just one more. So to assist you with transitioning these 1,700 dogs, which I actually thought was 2,900 dogs, not quite sure about 1,700, that's fine, that's all it is. Would you allow dogs to be exported to Australia? There's one message you have to read home every time a dog goes to Australia, and that's one that's not de-sexed.
There is nothing stopping dogs being exported to anywhere.
I'd love you to tell that to the Yankees that work in the airlines then.
Yeah, well, I accept that that's a problem, and we...
So how can you assist us? Surely.
Well, we're working on it.
Yeah, time frames.
Right, can we just move on to here?
If you've got a proposal that is being stopped because of the airline's refusal to transport the dogs, I'd like to know about it.
Cool, we've got a question here and then we'll get Kevin.
Ms. Simpson, Bridget Burke, thanks for your time. I'm just wanting to clarify a number of things because I fear I may have misunderstood you previously when you quoted $20-something a daily rate for rehoming. Does that include the burden of feeding and kennelling inside that daily rate? So it's the labour, the food, the cost recovery, if you will. So could you please then tell me, for the benefit of the LPs who do this great work, what that means as an hourly rate for them, please?
No.
You don't know it, or?
No.
You don't know the
I
hourly
don't know,
rate?
because it will depend on how many dogs they've got, etc., etc., etc.
Well then, surely you've run the figures and numbers on
Well, I
that.
haven't got them in my head, I promise you that.
No, I know, but what does $20-something a day for all that translate to as an hourly rate for people who deliver this service for the government?
Well, I'm not just, anyway. I do not know the answer to that, and therefore I'm not going to make it up.
Well, Heather, I do.
Good.
I do. I've got 40-something years background in finance. I sort of know what's going on. I have no direct involvement in looking after dogs. I have a very strong interest in dogs, a very strong interest in administration. And I can tell you right here and now, that figure that you need to be paying these good people has to be a minimum of $35 a day, and probably more north of the Bombays, because it's so damn dear to live up here with rates, insurance, maintenance, and rental costs if you don't own your own property.
Well, it's below minimum wage, so that's a problem for the
So
government.
Heather,
That's a problem for the government,
Okay,
especially
we've got
in
someone very
election year.
patiently been waiting.
That's pretty much what they're saying
above 20s, right? If you're going off the average of all boarding kennels in New Zealand, reputable boarding kennels, not just someone that has 5 kennels, right? The average is nowhere in the 20s. That is the minimum of someone that probably has 5 kennels that they call themselves boarding kennels. So what research have you done to say that that is going to be what we are paid daily for these dogs is in the 20s? That you should be going off of the average of boarding kennels in New Zealand, right? Do you know how, like, you work out the average, you divide it by however many you've worked it out with, it's not in the 20s. I could
But
find
if I start at the other end and
pretty
look at the declared incomes of all these people in here and what it is supposedly
And as
cost
well,
us to do
as
it.
well.
What disparity are we going to go down now?
No, we're not. Look,
I see the
As well.
disrespect for those. This is past a joke. It's disgusting.
So I think that you're also going off of what JRNZ are paid at $20 a day. They are getting it, we're still getting an income with that. We're getting an income because we have racing dogs still. And that $20 a day is with the rehoming cost of the retired dogs, right? They're all going to be retired by the 1st of August, so that's no income. And you still think just adding on a few more dollars is going to cover the cost of no income, of cost of staff, the feeding, the welfare. You just think that we're just going to feed the dogs, but you also see it over here that you want them to be exercised right. So it makes no sense that you aren't even thinking about adding more compensation. And you're just saying in the 20s. You're like everyone's saying that it should be minimum 35, and you're just going in one ear out the other. I just don't understand how you haven't done research and also covering the cost of not just feeding them. You said, yeah, it shouldn't take, a dog doesn't eat $28 worth of food. Well, it's not just the food. I don't.
So I think, yeah, we've probably covered that topic quite clearly, and hopefully been a bit of an eye-opener that we may go back to actually put some numbers in place while they're starting. We might actually have a bit more transparency. Yeah, it is.
Just slightly different to the costings in that, regardless of that. 1st of August, I'm to sign a contract with the transition agency to take over the ownership of my dogs. I want to keep majority of my dogs as pets, right? That is my right, I am the owner. However, I'm losing 100% of my income come the 1st of August. So I'm not able to care for these dogs up until I find other employment, up until I start a new business, up until whatever. If I sign a contract with the transition agency to receive funding to care for these dogs, in 3 months' time, once I've got employment or have been able to find that income to be able to maintain my dogs as my pets, am I able to then cancel that contract with the transition agency? Or are you going to come down like God and say, we own these dogs, you have no say in where they go?
So it's, can you rehome them to yourself when you're in a position to do so?
Correct.
Is that right? Yeah.
how much leeway are you going to have on how long before that decision, if is something we are still talking about, right? We accept that you should have the opportunity to look after your own dogs if that is what you want to do. How long that period is, I'm not sure yet. Right?
Well, I'm not sure either, because when I go to talk to my bank manager and say, I'd like to start a new business, but however, from the 1st of August, I've only got expenses, no income. Yeah. It's going to be a really interesting conversation there, you know, especially for young people now, that, you know, sort of the 20s to 40s that are starting to save up for their first home, and now they're going to go and potentially end of the year or in a year's time say, I'm ready to buy my own home. We go to the bank for a mortgage. Well, actually, you've had no income for the last 12 months. How can we give you a mortgage? It's not just putting us back the next 6 or 12 months, it's putting us back 5, 10 years. That's what also has to be considered when we talk about the daily rate and we talk about the expectation of us as trainers. I'm not sure if the transition agency has had a chance yet to look at the welfare standards that GRNZ have set over the last 5 years and how vigorous they are. because you, as you mentioned earlier, in 5 years' time, once every dog's rehomed, they then come under the National Dog Control Act, which does not give much welfare hope for any dog. So we are expected to maintain the standards that are ingrained in us as people because of the care that we have for our animals, yet it feels like bare minimum is being looked at from the transition agency, and that's actually really a kick in the guts, not only with the ban coming through, but for the hard work that all of these people in this room have done over the last 5 to